Hello YouTube, this is Mahadev the Thunder Wizard. Today I want to talk to you about two major by psychic I mean psychological, two major psychological shifts that will occur from the solar flash. We're going to talk about two major hacks that you can use within yourself that will bring the 5D shift and make your transition easier. Hello everybody, this is Mahadev the Thunder Wizard. This is the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel. And we're going to be talking about some pretty crazy out there stuff. If you've been on my channel for a while, you're used to it. I want you to, again, be aware that I've got a couple of books out there which I think are very important. Interdimensional Revolution is one of them. And then we also have Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth. You can get those on Amazon, Kindle, and also Audible. You can go to audiobooks.thunderwizard.com to see all of my audiobooks. And of course, if you want to learn how to have this interdimensional experience yourself, you can go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe to the Interdimensional Meditation course. All right. So we've got a lot to cover tonight. Hopefully I can stay on track. I'll try. Let's see what happens here. So two major psychic shifts from the solar flash event. These are going to bring 5D and your transition will be easier. Here are two things that are going to shift as we go into 5D. Number one, there's going to be an end of the toxic devaluation of self. Hopefully I can explain that in a way that makes me happy. You can see in parentheses there, it's just a fancy way of saying no more guilt about being who you are. We live in a three-dimensional universe, or excuse me, not a three-dimensional universe. Our universe is not three-dimensional. We live in a three-dimensional planet that isolates us. The experience of 3D is isolation, and the isolation functions in such a way that we can be very easily devalued. We'll talk about that. That is going to shift in the opposite direction after the solar flash. You won't feel guilty just for being who you are. The second thing that's going to shift is there's going to be a freedom of authentic expression of the self. It's another way of saying there will be no more fear and blocks to living your dreams. So let's see if I can put this into as simple and as a concise way as possible. I have a hard time with some of these deeper subjects doing that. So we live in a three-dimensional Earth. Now, 3 dimensions in and of itself is not a bad thing, but the three-dimensional reality lends itself to certain limitations that can be problematic. We now live in a three-dimensional world where the limitations of 3D on the human psyche are being completely, totally utilized to trap and ensnare people, and it is done through what we could call the narrative. So the narrative, the basic of the narrative, in order to control you, in order to keep you part of the system, if you want to call it the matrix, in order to keep you part of the matrix, you must be devalued. You must not become aware that you are in fact an infinite, omnipotent, perfect being of light in a physical 3D body. If you become aware of that, the narrative cannot control you. And if the narrative cannot control you, then the people who have all of the power and the money, the corporations, the governments, the banks, all of that, they can't control you if you are fully aware and conscious that you are in fact a multidimensional being of light. So, in order to prevent that from happening, the 3D narrative focuses on isolation, the feeling you have of isolation, And the feeling that you have that you cannot do things for yourself, the feeling that the universe, the power that surrounds you, the cosmic consciousness, God, whatever words you want to use, the feeling that that is not there for you, that in order to function within three-dimensional world, the narrative says you have to live according to literally a social credit system. You know, we talk about, you know, we don't want to see a social credit system come into our world. It's already here. It's been here forever. It's called money. People's value. I mean, I'm not making this up. I'm not exaggerating here. Your value is completely based on how much money you have. That's our society is completely focused on that. You can say all you want, well, money doesn't really matter. Money doesn't bring happiness. Yet how many of you really believe that? How many of you listening to me, if you were to be dirt broke poor and didn't have somebody providing for you, tell me you wouldn't feel completely worthless? This is what money is. It's a social credit system. And remember that money does not exist. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist because it's not associated with precious metals like it was in the past. Even when money was precious metals, even that is still an idea. You can't eat gold or silver. You can't build anything with it, really. You can't use it for tools. It's too soft. You can't wear it as clothing. It's not going to love you. You can't do anything with it. And even if we're talking about gold and silver, if you and I don't agree that this piece of silver, this piece of gold, if we don't agree that this doesn't have value, I mean, if we don't agree that this has value, it won't be able to do anything. It doesn't really exist. But your entire value as a person in our entire world is based solely on how much money you have. And so in order to have money, you must then participate in the infrastructure of the narrative. And the infrastructure of the narrative is you have to go work a job. You have to work a job for a company. You know, you could work for yourself like I do, but even then I still have to deal with things like banks and other kinds of nonsense like that. So, you know, and anyway, so before I start waxing nutcasely, let's continue. So the solar flash is going to bring the end of the toxic devaluation of the self. You won't feel guilty about being who you are. And this is everything boils down to this. Everything boils down to people feeling shameful simply because they exist. And it's just a sliding scale. The people who are really mentally ill, if we go down all the way to the other end of the scale and we have really mentally ill people, we're talking, you know, psychopaths, narcissists, you know, people that are just incredibly mentally ill and destructive. It comes from a complete devaluation of self. They do not have a functioning sense of value within themselves. You go further down the spectrum, you get closer and closer to healthy people. Even then, you know, we have this thing called religion. We have all these other things, educational system, and as I said, you know, jobs and money, which give people value. And on the complete other end of that, if we're talking about the social credit system, we've got homeless people. Homeless people are seen as the least valuable in our world. And the reason for that is why? Because they're not part of the pretend game we call money. Because they don't have that, they're not allowed to build their own home. They're not allowed to forage for their own food. They're not allowed to do what our ancestors did. They just lived on the planet and they The planet provided what they needed, and their worth didn't come from that. Their worth came from other things. And there was a deep spiritual life and a deep spiritual connection. And that has been completely taken away by what we call the narrative. So there will be no more guilt about being who you are. There will be freedom of authentic expression of self. We live in a society that does not want that. Because if you freely express yourself in a way that isn't about marketing. You know, I was an actor for years, and I used to really get upset. I felt very devalued because I didn't become a big movie star. But one of the things I learned really quickly about the Hollywood business, I mean, I was an actor, and it's one thing being an artist and writing plays and acting and doing all that, and I still believe in art and in all of its forms. And my goal as an artist was to actually give the audience an experience so that they could look at themselves and evolve. This is what Greek tragedies are all about. Good drama is all about, even comedy. It's interesting, we've got two very famous comedians that all they do now is they have podcasts talking about how crazy the world is. Joe Rogan is one, and who's the other guy? The English guy, I forget his name. These guys were comedians. But now their function is to point out how crazy the world is. Because that's what comedians normally do. They point out our craziness, and we laugh at it. And now we've got comedians who are talking about it, but we're not laughing about it anymore because it's not funny. It's really destructive. And so I learned really quick that the reason I wasn't making it in Hollywood was because I wasn't good for advertising. I became aware very quickly that actors who did well were good for advertisement. And I learned that when I did a seminar, because I was an actor and you got to make money. So I went and did this seminar on how to be a commercial actor. And that wasn't what I did. I did intense drama and tragedy and all that other stuff. And so I go to sell this their videotaping, which was a big deal back then. You had to have a big video camera. And so, we would see ourselves on camera. And I had this gum, and I was like trying to sell this gum. And I looked at it, and I looked like a serial killer. I mean, I wasn't even bald. It just looked like, I just looked crazy. And it was like, nobody's going to buy that gum. And I looked at it, and I said, you're right, nobody's going to buy that gum. And I realized I was sitting there going, but I don't do this so that I can sell gum. And then I started watching more television, and I started seeing that all of the people who were making it in television were very neutral. They're attractive, but they weren't too attractive, because that would be too distracting. They were attractive and very neutral, and they made you feel good about yourself. They didn't make you feel uncomfortable. And of course, interspersed would be all of these advertisements. And I saw that the people on the ads looked and had the same vibe as all of the people on the shows. And of course, all of the storylines, there was nothing in any of the storylines that would ever really stimulate you to experience or think about your existence. It was all meant to put you to sleep. And I realized I'm not going to make it in this business. This isn't what I do. And now I'm really grateful. But, that's what the narrative wants to do. It wants to just keep you asleep. And in order to do that, you have to be devalued. And then your complete focus has to be on being on that social credit score, which has to do with money, status. These are all the things that are going to go belly up after the solar flash. So you won't have any more fear and blocks. The point I'm getting at is that what I see here, which is an absolute plague. I mean, if you want to talk about a pandemic, one of the pandemics that I see in society is that people are absolutely terrified to do anything that makes them happy. I mean, for some people, it's a foreign language. I mean, this is one of the services that if you go to the courses.thunderwizard.com. Also, by the way, just to let you know, the solar flash, is that it? Let's see, is that what I want? No, that's something else. Solar flash package, solarflash.thunderwizard.com. I teach you 3 ways to create your own business, helping others. And this is going to last for another week, speaking about money. So take a look at that. If you're looking to start your own business, those are 3 possibilities. I've used each one of those separately and together to create functioning businesses that completely paid all of my bills. I don't make any guarantees for you, but when I've done that service, people who come to me wanting to find their soul desired career, their true destiny, the thing that will bring them the greatest money. When people come to me for that service, and I will ask them, if you didn't have to make money to survive, and if you didn't have to please anybody else, if you could do whatever you wanted, no matter how impossible, and you only focused on yourself, right now, what would you be doing? And there are so many people that can't respond to that question. When I ask, what is it that makes you happy? People can't answer that question. And I'll tell you the reason why. This isn't true in all cases. There are some people that actually have some cognitive issues, ADHD, things like that, and that makes it difficult for them. They might, somebody autistic, those kinds of things. That's different. But if we're talking about somebody who's fully, functional upstairs and relatively emotionally normal, mentally, normal, when you ask them those questions, there should be an immediate response. I mean, I can tell you mine. You already know what it is. I want to live on the beach. I want to be able to walk out of my house and go surfing every day. I want it to be a semi-tropical place. I don't want it to be too tropical, but tropical enough where the water's warm all year and the weather's nice all year. I want it to be isolated so I don't have to deal with a lot of crowds. And I want to live right on the beach, and I want to do this business that I'm doing now, make videos helping people to spiritually expand. That's all I want to do. There's no doubt in my mind about what I want to do, how I want to do, where I want to live. I don't have any doubts about any of it. And so that should be the case for everybody, and it's okay if you don't have that, but that should be you should have the ability. When somebody says, if you didn't have to make money and you could do anything, what would you do? You should have an answer to that. But the truth is, most people don't. And the answers that people do come up with are not truly authentic. They actually come up with answers that are in between the 2 extremes that you have to face in this life, which is either you're going after what your soul wants and you are rejecting the narrative, or you are going towards the narrative seeking to find your worth in money, in fame, in looks, something like that. Those are the 2 choices that you have. Now, you can be going after your soul and have money and fame and looks and all that. You can have all of that, but those would be things that you don't care about. The only thing you care about is your soul. So, I think we're on this one. So there will be no more fears and blocks to living your dreams, which is the opposite now. And then I have this, I had to put this in there, but the guy sitting on the rock there, he's meditating on the sun, and his heart chakra is exploding like a sun inside of him there. Your heart chakra will be in continuous connection to the quantum consciousness, or what we would call God. I like that picture because that is exactly how it feels to me when I am doing my interdimensional meditation. When higher dimensional beings are communicating with me, that's exactly how it feels on my physical body. I can feel this energy radiating out of my heart center. I've never experienced anything like it before, 7 months ago. So that, I think, is going to be something that everybody's going to experience. I think everybody will have that same experience where they are completely connected from their heart center to all of the quantum consciousness of the universe. So that brings us to the fact of our reality right now, is that tapping into what we call the fifth dimension is very difficult for three-dimensional human beings. There has to be a radical transformation of self, primarily psychologically. Your body will be able to handle the energy shift. You have energy meridians in your body. You have kundalini meridians in your body. You have your DNA is ready to flip on switches and shift you. Your body has the ability to shift. The part of you that will have the biggest problem, which affects your physical body, is your psyche. Because the psyche is completely, totally addicted to the three-dimensional narrative. And this is the thing that has to shift. So when I talk about having the ability to make the shift, there are two things that we have to do on a psychological level if we want to be able to have this shift happen naturally and easily. So we come to the next thing here. So the one commandment of the post-solar flash 5D world is the same as now, but this will be the norm, which is to do anything and everything it takes to make your soul happy. So you already know this if you've read my books. You can go to audiobooks. I've got an audiobook of it, the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. I'm dead serious about this. If you read that book and you memorize and put into practice what is in that book, you will never need to do anything ever again. That will take care of literally the core issue within you, which is your life. That book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life, is going to be exactly how people will live in the 5D. That is 5D living. I had no idea that that's what I was writing, because it's completely, totally antithetical to living in the 3D narrative. For people to follow that one commandment, the one commandment is to follow what your soul wants to do and to bring your soul joy and be willing to die psychologically, personally, physically to accomplish that. When I started teaching that, that was challenging. It was very challenging for me, and it was challenging for others, but it completely, totally shifted everything and gave me control over my 3D matrix, which is why I'm able to live wherever I decide to live, which is why when I go to, if I decide to move someplace different and my financial needs shift, I'm able to have my finances shift to meet my needs. It's because when you follow your soul, the matrix has to give you what you need. But you and I both know that's not what's happening for most people. Might not be happening for you. You might be running into blocks where you feel like you don't have enough money, you don't have enough opportunities. And the reason for that is because you are manifesting that from your psychological state. And your psychological state has been programmed to completely, totally buy into the social credit system, which we call money, which is the same as government. Government is money, which is the same as jobs. Jobs is money. And we've got an entire society based on a pretend concept. When I was 5 years old, I remember me and my friend Tommy Belton, he lived across the street, and he came over one day and there was this bush that had this vine that came out like that, and I went behind it and it was like a counter, and we played store. And, there was a stuffed animal here and a toy over here, and he came over and he pretended to put money down on the counter, and I gave him the stuffed animal, and we played store. But the money was was totally pretend. But the truth is that that invisible pretend money has the exact same amount of value as your stocks and bonds, as your paper money, as your gold and silver. It's all an idea. It's all a pretend game. And it's used to control you. Imagine a pretend game where there is no cash. There is nothing physical. Same thing. You have two adults there. And one adult walks up and says, I want that resource so that I can live. And the guy says, oh, I'll give you that, but you have to have 100 quatlus. Remember that? Perfect example. You have to have 100 quatlus. Here's 50 quatlus. Sorry, that's only 25. No, that's 50. No, I said that's 25. So you need 75 more quatlus. Oh, here they are. Oh, those aren't quatlus. I mean, it's that simple. It's just a pretend game. There's no value to any of it. And yet we live and die by it. People suffer physically, emotionally, and psychologically over a completely, totally abstract pretend concept that is used to control you and give you your value. So when you do anything and everything it takes to make your soul happy, then all of that pretend nonsense goes away. And you end up getting it. You end up learning, you end up being given the power to win the game. You always have everything that you need. And it's all pretend anyway. So the one obstacle you must overcome to achieve 5D is to never confuse the 3D narrative for the love of Shakti. All right, so money, the reason why money causes people so much pain is because money represents love. To our unconscious, money represents love. Money represents resources. It used to be actual resources. Food out of the ground, sunlight, fresh air, a place to live, clothing, people around you, love. These were all the resources and the energy that gave you life. And you didn't need anybody to tell you that you had it because Mother Earth gave it to you. You didn't have to have money. You didn't have to have banks. You know, if somebody had possessions, they had skins, they had food, they had actual things. And you might barter with them and give them something of your value, what you do, or who knows what, but you would trade an actual thing for a thing in order to have a thing, a real thing. We don't do that anymore. So what was I saying here? So the main obstacle to overcome and achieve 5D, that you must overcome to achieve 5D, is never confuse the 3D narrative for Shakti. So resources represent to the unconscious mind the love of the mother. Because what happens when you're an infant? You're stuck to mommy's breast, and mommy is the actual source of nourishment. And she's also the source of love, compassion, nurturing, connection. And so Mother Earth represents that. And what does Mother Earth give us? She gives us the resources we need to survive. But that's been taken over by money now. And Mother Earth doesn't know from money. She doesn't know what money is. It doesn't mean anything to her. It's just a nonsensical concept to her. She gives us food. She gives us, all the stuff that we need to survive. So when you switch actual physical resources for this pretend idea that we call money, money then represents love. So what has happened is that human beings over the past however many thousands of years that there have been empires, because that's where it started, human beings have replaced the connection to the love of the mother to the love of an idea called money. When people have money struggles, what happens? Their lower back, they have lower back pain. Lower back pain from a Taoist perspective means that the water element, the kidneys, is in trouble, which means that you don't feel nourished. You don't trust. You're back. You're literally nothing's got your back. And so people have back pain, when they don't have enough money. And it's not about money. It's about not feeling supported and loved. Money means love now. So the biggest obstacle is to no longer identify love with money. No longer identify the nurturing love of the mother with the narrative. The narrative is about being accepted by society, government, the whole shebang. Religion, government, the five fingers of the hand that is grasping the world, that is choking the world off, is we've got, let me see, how did I do this? First, we have, I'll just go in no particular order. We have the government or force. You've got the government forces you. They literally will show up and put a gun to your head if you don't follow their laws. So you've got the government and their laws. You've got the banks and money. Those are part of the same thing. You can't have government without banks. In fact, the governments are owned by the banks. And then you have the narrative, that is information, mainstream media, YouTube, any place that you get information, that is controlled by the force behind the narrative. And then you have medicine. Medicine now has become part of it. I mean, I don't watch television, but let's see, what was I was in the gym. That's right. I was in the gym and I was resting after the gym, and I was looking up at all those television screens, all those news screens, and I was noticing that every commercial, almost every commercial, was some kind of new drug. And it didn't used to be like that. But now it's completely taken over all of the advertisements on the news. And it doesn't matter whether it's Fox or CNN. It's some new pill that you need. And people are taking pills and vaccines for everything. Can't talk about that on this channel. Anyway, so do not confuse the narrative for the love of Shakti. And this is the biggest thing. People who don't know what they want to do. Not everybody. Some people have some, like I said, some things going on upstairs that prevents them from thinking clearly. They get trapped in their head. But for people who don't have that, the biggest challenge is conflating the acceptance of society with mother's love. So that's going to flip. But that is the biggest obstacle that people have. They don't do what they want, not because they don't know what they want to do. Everybody knows what they want to do if they're able to get quiet and listen. Your soul will tell you every time. It's not that people don't have the potential to know what they want to do. It's that if what you want to do does not bring you the social credit of the narrative, then people get stuck. And this is what happens every single time. I mean, I can't tell you how many times this has also been true with me. I knew what I wanted, but I don't know, you can't make a living doing that. That's the biggest one. And the truth is, you can make a living doing anything you want. Especially now. You can make a living doing anything you want. I mean, they got YouTube videos, YouTube channels of people who make millions of dollars, and all they do is they take videos of what they're going to wear that day. So, I mean, if people can make money, laying out their clothes for the day. Okay, today we're going to go, and today I'm going to pastel with this, and they lay it out on the bed, and people watch that. Millions of views, and they make a living off of that. So you can make a living doing anything. But it's amazing how people will make excuses for why they don't have money. I understand it, but it means that you are conflicted in that your soul wants to do one thing, but your human ego wants the love and acceptance of the narrative. And when you're stuck like that, you end up not being able to accomplish anything. And then you have money problems. That's when you have money problems. So that's all going to completely flip. Up on the left, what you fear most is to be rejected by the 3D corporate narrative. You didn't realize that. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who you are. You have been programmed, because if money means something to you, money is the corporate narrative. If you need money, if you ever say at any point in time, well, I can't do that. I wish I had it. I need some more money. Listen, I've said it. I've said it this past, I lost $8,000 selling my car. I don't even want to get on that subject. I lost $8,000, getting rid of my car so I could go out of the country. And so I started thinking that way. Gosh, if I had more money, it would all be okay. And it took me a while to realize that I had all the money that I needed to do everything that I want. I don't have that big nest egg. I don't have that extra $8,000 sitting in my bank making me feel safe. But I have what I need. And I'll be okay as long as something major doesn't happen. But I went through that, so I understand that. But I get over that pretty quickly because I've been doing this a while, so I know, I sit down, and when I'm like that, I sit down and I go, okay, listen, if I was my own if I was my own client, what would I tell myself? And then I tell myself what I tell you, and then I remind myself, oh yeah, I'm fine. Just keep putting things out there and just keep doing your thing and keep giving people tools to survive, and the universe will bring in the resources that I need. And that's always been the case. So the biggest problem is, again, people talk themselves out of that because they want to be loved by their mom. So as I said before, we live in a narcissistic society. It's not just a narcissistic society. Society itself is a narcissistic abuser. By society, I mean the banks, the governments, the narrative, our medical system. All of these things are one entity. There's a bunch of tentacles to it, but it's one entity. I don't care if it's the Illuminati or if it's just the way society is. I don't really care. I know that it is a narcissistic entity. And narcissistic people get their supply. It's called narcissistic supply. They get their supply by abusing people. And so there's this thing called intermittent reinforcement, which is part of narcissistic abuse. Intermittent reinforcement. Somebody said it's the milieu or something like that, and I looked that up because I'd never heard of that. And that's actually, no, milieu is just part of it. That just has to do with parts of the communication. But the whole tentacled narrative, which by narrative I mean government, banks, the whole tentacled narrative, the entire thing is a narcissistic abuser that uses intermittent reinforcement, and what it does first is it makes you feel loved, makes you feel seen. You are happy because it will give you a bunch of resources. And if money comes along and says, hey, I'm this thing called money, I don't really exist, but if you go to that store and you play pretend with these pieces of paper, they'll give you a bunch of stuff. And then you use it and you get a bunch of stuff. Banks do it by giving you loans. Oh, no problem. Come and give it. Here's a credit card. Here's a loan. And you go, oh, and you take this credit card. You swipe it. It's just nothing. And then you get a bunch of stuff and you feel taken care of. And then you become dependent upon that thing. And now you've got credit card debt, and then you got to go get a job because, well, I need this thing called money, or well, you got to go work for a job. Well, what is a job? A job is it still might be a mom and pop business, but it's still, that business got its money from a bank, and it's this big tentacled thing. And it narcissistically abuses you by first making you feel loved, that your needs are being met. You conflate love with getting stuff, so you feel loved. And then the interest kicks in. Then the payments kick in. Then the need for more money to have more stuff kicks in. And now you're in a state of trauma. Because in order to be loved, you have to have more of that money. So what do? You need to go work another job. You need to make more money. And then you say things like, well, I would love to go be a ballerina, but there's no money in that. And I need to make money. And if I don't make money, I'm not going to be able to function. I mean, and you forgot that money was just a pretend game to start with anyway. And so now you're in a state of trauma. And you stay in that state of trauma. The narcissistic abuser, the banks, the narrative will make you feel, yes, you don't have any worth without money. You don't have any worth without this pointless job. You go and spend 8 hours a day at a job you cannot fucking stand. It just eats at your soul. And if I were to ask you, would you spend 8 hours a day doing that if you didn't need money? You'd be like, fuck no, I wouldn't be doing that. So you hate yourself so much that you come back home and the only thing you do is you turn on television, watch that pablum so you can be put to sleep while you drink or smoke or play video games or watch porn or whatever it is that knocks you out so that you don't have to think about how miserable you are with your life. And now you're in it. And then you consume. You say, I'm going to save up money. Why don't you go do that thing you've always dreamed of doing? You know what? First, I need to save up the money. So what do? You go work 8 hours a day at a job you can't fucking stand, and then you end up spending all of your money on your rent and your bills and the other shit, the coffee, the alcohol, the drugs, the porn, whatever. Because you have to just tune yourself out of how miserable you are. This is called communism. I'm old enough to remember what happened when Eastern Europe came out of the grip of communist Russia. And what you found out is that in some of the former communist countries, that the state decided what you did for a living. So you couldn't, like even in the States, go and apply and get a job. They decided for you. Oh, you're going to be a factory worker. And then they worked you so hard. They'd work you for 10, 12 hours a day, manual labor. And you would be so tired at the end of those 5 or 6 days that on your day off, all you could do was just lie there and drink yourself silly. And so nobody was going to rebel. Nobody's going to revolt because they're just too damn tired. And this is what it does. That's narcissistic abuse. Intermittent reinforcement. Gives you what you want, then takes it away. And then when you're suffering and you're about to completely lose your mind and rebel, they give you back to you. This happens in our economy. I'm old enough now to have seen this, going back in the 70s with the so-called, gas crisis, and people were lined up for miles to get their gasoline. It was that intermittent reinforcement. Well, we went through the boom of the 50s after the war. A bunch of people died, and then we got this boom, the 50s, 60s, and then we hit the 70s, and there was this big, inflation and downturn, and then the economy collapsed, and then it expanded, and then it collapsed, and then it expanded, and then it collapsed. And how many times has this happened since you've been alive? They do that on purpose. It collapses so that you're full of fear, you're full of terror, that money, the love that you need. The depression, when my parents grew up during the depression. It happens all the time. There's nothing new about it. They give it to you so you feel safe, then they take it away, then you're in a state of survival trauma, then they give it back to you, and then you gorge yourself on it, you feel safe, and then they take it away. And they use this to keep you addicted to the fake love of money, so that you forgot what real Shakti is. The mother. You forgot. Or you never knew. So the one obstacle you must overcome is to never confuse the 3D narrative, money, governments, jobs, for the love of Shakti. 5D, people will feel in their body, as I'm feeling it right now as I'm talking about it. They like it when I start going in this direction. People will feel in their body the love of the quantum consciousness field. You will be directly connected to it. Everybody. There's no more need for saviors. There's no more need for gods. There's no more need for gurus. Everybody will be completely connected. And you will feel a direct connection. And you will be supported simply because you exist. You will constantly be told, as I am, whenever I do interdimensional meditation and I connect with higher dimensional beings, this is the theme. The only thing they talk about, is how beautiful and wonderful I am. That's all they talk about. And that is because they see me as a soul. And I'm nothing unique. You connect with them, they'll tell you the same thing, if you can handle it. That's another thing. If you can handle being loved to that degree, not everybody can handle it. But here's the thing. If you allow yourself to be loved, you will start to feel guilty. Because in order to be part of our narrative, you must feel shameful. You must feel devalued. That's what the narcissist promises to love you if you allow yourself to be devalued. And when you allow yourself to be devalued enough, the narcissist will reward you. And so we, like Pavlov's dogs, we believe, and this is, Jesus is the perfect example. In order to get God's approval, Jesus had to not only die on the cross, not only that, but he had to die on the cross for all of the things you did wrong. And then he was lifted up to God's right hand. And then he was, And it's the perfect example of, if you want to be accepted, you must be utterly devalued. You must allow yourself to be abused. That is how you gain love. So when somebody loves you truly and completely unconditionally, if you have been narcissistically traumatized, and all of us who live in 3D have been narcissistically traumatized, our nervous system has been set up to expect to endure trauma and then be rewarded for it. But when you receive love simply because you exist, you will feel guilty. You will feel like you are betraying the human race. Watch what happens. Do the interdimensional meditations and watch what happens. That's going to be one of the first things you feel. Is when you feel all that love, you're going to feel like, I don't deserve this. I'm betraying, I'm destroying society. And what that means is that you're afraid you won't be loved. Ironically, when you feel real love, the first thing you're going to think is, I'm not going to be able to be loved anymore. My narcissistic abuser won't reward me, won't love me. They're very much agreeing with what I just said. So I'm here to tell you that we live in the exact opposite kind of universe that you believe, which is you believe you live in this empty, hopeless universe. And the truth is, you live in this universe that has more love than you can possibly imagine. If you were to feel the love of the universe, you'd explode. It would be too much for your 3D body to handle. And so you have all of these beings that are filled with love beyond what you can even begin to imagine, and they can't give it to you because they know if they do, you're going to go through a toxic spin. So you have to take it a piece at a time. This is what the 90-day challenge is about. This is what the interdimensional meditation course is all about. But the more that you choose to rebel against the 3D narrative, the more space you make for actual unconditional love. And that's all that 5D is. 5D is just human beings choosing to evolve to the next level, which is unconditional love. So we're going to live in a universe where we see this guy sitting there, and all he's doing is sitting there. And the sun is filling his soul with this feeling of love and sense of self. You won't have to be devaluing yourself anymore. You won't feel guilty for who you are. You won't have any fear or blocks to living your dreams. So the thing to do right now as we wait, don't wait. One thing I don't suggest is wait for the solar flash to come, because I don't think that's how it works, and I don't think it's a good idea. The thing to do is to start acting as though we're in 5D now, which means that you may have to face the pain of the fear that mom doesn't love you anymore. Mom meaning the narrative. And the narrative is a narcissistic abuser. And if you can accept that what you have unconsciously associated with Shakti, with your mother, is actually a sociopathic narcissistic abuser that is never going to love you, the sooner you can accept that, the easier it will be to take the perhaps painful road of living your true self. That is what this channel is all about. That's all I'm here to do. I only have one goal, and that is to give you the ability to take the actions to live your soul's truth. And I will do whatever I can to support you while you face your own pain. When you face the fear and everything inside of you tells you to go back to that abusive relationship, go back to that crappy job. When all of that happens, I'm going to be here to tell you that you don't have to do that. That it doesn't matter how frightened you are, doesn't matter how much pain you're in, it doesn't matter how guilty you feel, it doesn't matter how much devaluation you feel. Just keep taking the action towards what your soul wants. Keep taking the risk of losing that relationship, losing that job, the fear of being homeless. I mean, I go through it every, few years. It seems I go through this thing of, well, I'm going to do what I want, and if I have to be homeless to do it, I will. I never am. I could have stayed here in Florida. I would have been absolutely fucking miserable, but that would have been the easier thing to do, but I'm not going to do that. All right, I'm going to stop babbling. Interdimensional Revolution talks about this. You need to read this book. Go to audiobooks.thunderwizard.com to get it, or you can find it on Amazon and Kindle. Also, extraterrestrials are coming to Earth. All right, so I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. I prefer questions. Write the word question in all caps and then write your question. I'm also interested in your feelings, so write down your feelings. All right, so Santana, you know how this works. If you have a question, write the word question. Patrick.thunderwizard.com. Hello, my friend. Welcome back. Patrick is one of my Vedic astrologers, and he'll soon be doing rune readings. So Patrick, I'm letting you know I'm no longer going to announce people who have been certified. You are free to keep writing on here, and you can come in and write your name, patrick.thunderwizard.com, and write your website and what it is you want to do, and I'll make sure that people see it, even if YouTube tries to get rid of it. But I'm no longer going to announce people. There's just too many. So, but feel free to come on here and tell everybody who you are and your service, and that you are one of my apprentices. That goes for all of my other apprentices as well who have been certified by me. Paige Woodruff, feeling inspired by you, following your happiness, and also jealous. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, one love. Here's how this channel works. This is my classroom. So if you want to go teach on your classroom, that's fine. If you've got a question, I'm happy to take it, but there's no room in my podium for you to share yours. And it doesn't serve me. So definitely not 3 dimensions. There's 15 in the 7th universe. Anyway, it's clear to me you haven't followed my channel. If you have, yeah, we live in a 3rd dimension. So it doesn't matter to me. You say there's 15. I think there's actually only 11, but that's irrelevant to the point. So we're going to get rid of that because it's annoying me. What else? Flag Runner question regarding your Thor's Hammer Qigong video. So what he's talking about, and I recommend everybody learn how to do this. Learn how to go to my channel, Thunder Wizard DOTCOM. Go on to the playlists and you can find the Thor's Hammer Qigong. Anyway, there's a bunch of stuff and it's free. Go and use it. The point of this channel is to do the work, and that's one thing you can do to empower yourself. Won't cost you a dime. Go and do it. He says, regarding your Thor's Hammer Qigong video, what can we do with the hammer once we've created it? I don't know what you mean by that. You're not creating an actual hammer. It's just, anyway, watch the video again and do the practice. What you're asking tells me that you haven't done the practice or you don't understand it. So go back and do the practice. It's a very powerful practice. If you do it every day, I guarantee you, your life will change. So thanks for the question, and I'm glad you're interested, but you need to go back and kind of figure out what it is that we're doing in that exercise. Empirical Blade question, do you think a life in the countryside is better than in a big city? I'm not here to tell other people how to live. I don't like living in the city. I never have, but that's me. Some people do. I don't care. I don't think there's a better or a worse. This isn't really a question, because the question is you're asking me something that you don't know the answer to that you think I do. It's more of kind of like we're sitting there drinking and you're wanting to know if I share the same attitude as you. Maybe you like living in the country and you think it's better. I would agree. For me, definitely living in the countryside is better, but I don't know that that's true for anybody else. Empirical Blade question, do you think modern day non-religious Western people still think in a monotheistic paradigm? Yes. If you are living in listen, money is a perfect example. What is monotheism based on? Guilt. Specifically, sins. I would like for somebody to show me a physical sin. Hand it to me. We talk about it in the plural like they're things. Well, he has a lot of sins. What the hell does that mean? We think of them as things, and they're not things, they're ideas. When I was growing up, and when I was going to college, the first college I went to was a born-again Christian college, and I wasn't allowed to dance. What was that? I wasn't allowed to dance, smoke, or gamble. I mean, even in the 80s, that was old, but I mean, that was clearly back from the 40s and 50s. And those were sins. I mean, according to whom? According to somebody who doesn't like to see people enjoying their bodies, dancing is a sin. And so monotheism is about being devalued, narcissistically devalued, and then being given rewards. What happens? Jesus was given a reward for allowing himself to be the ultimate abuse victim. And so money is that same way. And what is the modern representation of sins? It's called interest. Bank account. Again, this is this craziest thing. And now it's because I lived with it and I took it for granted, but I'm thinking about it now and it is such the ultimate scam. You want to buy a house? Well, you're not going to be able to afford that. We've set up society so that almost nobody has the ability to go and take the money that they have and buy a house. So what do? You got to go to a bank. You got to go to a bank, and the bank is going to give you a loan. Now, you pay that loan, and if I'm wrong about this, somebody correct me, but I think this is how it works. If you're given a loan, that loan is accruing interest from the moment that you get it. And then you pay back that loan to the bank, who actually, you don't own the house, the bank owns the house. And the bank leases it to you, but unlike somebody who owns, like if you rent from somebody, if something goes wrong, the owner has to fix it. But as the person who's paying the bank that you're leasing the house from, you have to pay all of the things that need to be fixed on the house. And let's say you pay out of a $300,000 loan, and I don't know how it works, but let's say you're $100,000 into it, 10 years into it, in a 30-year mortgage or whatever, and you've paid $100,000 into that. If you miss a payment, the bank takes the house, doesn't give you $100,000, doesn't go, hey, you know what? It's worth 300, but you put in 100. Let's take 25,000 out of it for, fees and interest. Here's 75 grand. They don't do that. They'll throw you out in the fucking street. All of that money you put into the house that you supposedly own, all the things that you've fixed, out the window. They not only have all of the money and the interest that you've paid, but then they have the house that they turn around and sell, and they've got far more money than it was worth. And you end up worse than you were before. Not only do you not have the house, but now your credit, what is that? The love. Your credit score shows how loved you are. That's monotheism. That is absolutely the essence of monotheism. We live in a society where people can't think in holographic terms. That's monotheism. Before the introduction of the Christian religion that was imposed on people at the edge of a knife, before then, people could think holographically about the universe and about gods and about spirits and about the earth and about dreams. Nobody can do that anymore. Science is a wonderful thing, and science is now is not associated with religion, but science originally was. And the point of science was to go in and talk people out of their shamanic beliefs, their holographic understandings of reality. And there was the earth, which was bad, and there was heaven, which was good. And if you were an earthly person, you were bad. This is why Gnosticism is bullshit. Those of you who think Gnosticism is a good religion, it is just another form of tremendous codependent, narcissistically abused monotheists. It's all bullshit. Just put the whole thing in a ball and throw it away. The answer to your question is yes. Agent of the universe, honest feeling. I'm torn between the phase of giving up on everything and pushing through the tough times. So all you have to do is have that feeling and simply make the decision. This is the one thing. It's the only thing that will save you. Not just you, but everybody. I mean, I listen to people. I listen to people in my practice. I listen to people on comments. I listen to people in my life who end up saying the same fucking thing that I've said, which is, I feel like dying. I feel like quitting. I have no hope. Nothing works. They've tried. They started moving towards doing their own thing, and then they gave up. And they gave up because it didn't feel good. And so people ask me, how do I get over my fear? And I say the same thing every time. I said, when did I say you were supposed to get over your fear? I never told you to not have any feeling. Your feelings are incidental. Your feelings do not make decisions for you. Your feelings are just that, they're feelings. And if you have been programmed in a narcissistically abusive narrative, which we all have if you've grown up on this planet, then you have been programmed to hate yourself when you go after what you want. So just expect that when you follow your soul, one of the first things that's going to happen is your nervous system and your unconscious mind is going to make you feel like shit. Just expect it. When I go to the gym and I go and I lift and I try and lift as hard as I can so that I can, not get old, I expect it's going to hurt. I expect it's going to burn. I expect I'm going to be sore the next day. I expect that. If I'm not sore the next day, I go, I must not have worked out hard enough. If it's too easy and if I can barely get that last, weight pushed up, I think it's not heavy enough. But we don't treat life like that. When we go after what we want in life and things get difficult, we go, I can't do it. I want to give up. You got to change your understanding about how 3D life works. 3D is going to resist you. That's what it's here to do. It's so that you will learn and grow past that. When you get to the point where you know that you can take action no matter how shitty you feel, you know that nobody can control you. Nobody can overpower you. Nobody can manipulate you because you won't have the fear. So I'm sorry you feel that way, but you're torn between giving up and pushing through. So just push through. You don't have to push through and feel good about it. It doesn't have to feel easy. You just got to do it. It works. It's the only thing. I mean, when it comes down to it, the only thing left is, are you going to take the action? And I'm here to tell you, the people that don't take action are people who want the narrative to love them. The thought of the narrative not loving them, because they conflate the narrative with mother. And mom's love on an unconscious level means survival. So people are afraid to go against the narrative because they believe it will kill them. Not consciously, because all I'm doing is I'm applying for that house that I want, or I'm going to go and create that video, or I'm going to go and start that business, or I'm going to do that hobby. Consciously that's not going to kill you, but your body's saying, no, if you do that, you're going to be killing your mom. And you can't do that. You need mom's love. This is the basis for everything. And I've seen this with people. People put far more energy into stopping themselves from doing something than actually just doing it. So just do it. As Nike says, just do it. And what I do is I have a list. And whenever you guys, maybe you don't know this, but the majority of all of the video teachings, that I put up, I hated doing it. I felt like dying. I felt so unworthy. And it still happens to me almost, on a daily basis. When I come to do a video, I feel like I'm so unworthy. Why would anybody want to listen to me? I'm nothing. I'm nobody. And it feels like I'm dying whenever I put myself out there. Almost every time. But I do it because it doesn't kill me. It just feels like it's going to. And then, I get people telling me that I've saved their lives. And I go, oh, holy shit. This is actually doing something. This is actually helping people. So who gives a shit if it's a little uncomfortable for me? If me being uncomfortable pays the bills and saves somebody's life, just do it. Anyway, thanks for sharing that feeling. Zerlath Immortal. Honest feeling. After my kidney stone this summer, my feelings shifted from anxious survival to realizing how valued I am, and now I'm pretty happy. Good for you. Yeah, kidney stones are about that. Kidney stones are intense anger. And it's intense anger inward. And kidney stones being, it means intense anger about not being supported. I know, because I had a kidney stone when I was in my 20s. In fact, the kidney stone I had was so big I had to go to the hospital and get operated on. They did things to me that they only do in Nazi concentration camps. They took a tiny little hole that was on my body, and they climbed up it with something that shouldn't fit there, and then they went and grabbed and I woke up after the surgery with tubes, big giant tubes coming out of a tiny little hole. It was very painful. And that was because I was so filled with rage because I was running my own theater company. I was acting in the theater company. I was writing, I was directing, I was teaching classes, I was working 2 jobs, and I wasn't becoming a big-time movie star. And if you had asked me then, I would have said, I'm going to be a movie star so I can show my dad, fuck you, look at me, look at how I did it without you, fuck you. I was so angry. So anger for not being successful, that's called kidney stones. It also helps, I was only drinking coffee and soda, so that kind of helps. But you obviously, I'm glad that you're feeling better, and obviously you've opened yourself up to be loved by the universe, which is a great thing. Gremnor Thomas question about what someone told me in a dream in the past. Okay, you said this is a question. I'm trying to figure out what the question is. You've asked, how many times have you asked me this? What do you want from me? I'm not even going to bother with that question. I've already told you, you heard that in a dream. Why are you asking me about it? It was your dream. I'm sorry, you guys, you may not understand. It's just this person keeps asking the same question over and over again, and I keep giving him the same answer. So I don't have an answer for you. It's obviously different from what I teach. So why are you asking me? What do you want? I mean, what you want me to give you my opinion? I don't have one. It was your dream. You want to argue with me about that? I'm not interested. I really don't know what you want. It's not a question. A question is you're asking me something you don't know the answer to. That has nothing to do with that. There's something about your ego and your religion, and you want to bounce it off of me, and I don't want to play that game with you. All right, what else? Yeah, and you know what? I'm just going to take care of this so that I never have to deal with this again. Hang on. All right, there. Now I'll never have to deal with that. You know, you tell somebody once or twice, stop stepping on my feet, and they keep doing it. You gotta get rid of them. What else? Having said that, I do appreciate honest questions. I do appreciate honest feelings. I just don't like people who are abusive. I found that guy to be abusive. Let's see what else. Nothing else? We don't have any more questions? All right. So I hope this made sense to you. I have to say that life has become so incredibly unusual and strange for me. Even for me, all the stuff I've been doing. Life is very, very interesting and strange and unbelievable. And in order for me to make this all work, I just have to stop thinking about it and just operate from my feelings. And when I do that, I start to feel a lot better when it comes to all this stuff. So this channel is about doing the work. This channel is not about talk. I'm glad that you like hearing me talk. I hope that I'm able to encourage you and open your mind. But what I want more than anything is for you to be inspired to do the energy work. That is the most important thing. The meditations and the energy work that I teach on this channel, whether it's the free stuff or whether it's the 90-day challenge or whether it's the interdimensional meditation, I don't care. Please do something. Do the Hul breath, H-U-U-L, it's free. Do the Summoning the Immortals, Qigong, that's free. Do any of the meditations, the Thor's Hammer, do any of it, but do it on a daily basis. If you do that, I'm going to know. When you write a question, I'm going to know. I'm going to be able to see it in your question. I can tell those of you who are doing the work and those who aren't. You know who you are. And my only interest is to help you. I don't have an ego about this. I have no interest in being a guru. That's why I don't care if you like what I say or don't like what I say. I'm happy to tell you the truth whether you want to hear it or not. I'm happy to block people because they annoy me. I'm happy to I'm not here to placate you. I'm only here to give you the tools so that you can evolve. And the best way to make me happy, if you want to give back to me, is to do the work. Do it every day. If you do the energy work to empower yourself, I will be empowered as well as all other conscious beings in the universe. If you run away from yourself and if you beat yourself up, you will not only be doing damage to you, you'll be doing damage to me and every other conscious being. So if you really want to make the most out of this channel, please do the energy work, please. We need it. This universe needs it more than anything. And if you want to get in on the ground floor of the most powerful energy changes that have happened in the history of the planet Earth, start doing interdimensional meditation. You don't have to do it with me. I don't care. You can go just Google CE5 and start experimenting and do it yourself. I teach you on here the stuff that I do and my techniques, but I'm not trying to be the only game in town. But I know that the only way we are going to destroy the narrative is by poking holes in the 3D and connecting to 5D. So please do that. I hope that I've inspired you to do that. Anyway, I'm ready to stop talking now. Anything come up since I've been babbling? Zerlath Immortal, honest feeling, I was so acidic. That's not a feeling, by the way. But yeah, you were acidic. That's why this stone came up. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling, I'm scared and feel unsupported. I understand. I feel that way often myself. So just do the work. Do what's in front of you. Do the next indicated thing. Talk to your friends. Talk to your sponsor. Talk to your therapist. Talk to whomever. Do the meditations. Give to others. Be of service. If you have something that you know how to do, teach it to others. If you've been practicing any of the Qigong on this channel, go ahead and start a Qigong class. Call it another name because I'm not giving you my stamp of approval, but you have my permission to take any of the things that I teach on here and create your own stuff. Create your own channel. Do something. Give it away. You know, one of the things that makes me feel good is when I work with other people and when I help other people. And some days, you know, I got messed up as a kid. So my brain doesn't work all that great. First thing that happens to me when I wake up in the morning is my head is telling me what a piece of garbage I am. And I almost never feel good when I wake up in the morning. And when I wake up in the morning and I see comments on the channel of, you know, some practice has helped people, or I get an email and somebody says, you saved my life. If it weren't for you, I'd be dead. You know, that makes it all worthwhile for me. That's the only thing that I care about. So give something to somebody else and you'll see that'll shift you as well. One thing you can do is give to people and don't let them know you're giving to them. That's one of the most powerful tools there are. Do something every day for somebody that they will like, that they will enjoy. But the rule is they can't know you did it. Try that. Just that mindset will help you with that. Do the echo practice that I talked about, the echo technique. All right, I'm done babbling. That's it for me. I thank you guys. I love you. I'm glad that you're here. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Take care.